The water crisis in Flint, Michigan has shocked many Americans, but water contamination is not limited to one poorly managed city. In fact, new reports show us that Flint isn't even the most contaminated drinking water in the country, and many areas of the U.S. are being poisoned by lead-contaminated water. Joining me now to discuss this widespread problem is Michael Burg. Michael, I think the situation that's unfolding in Flint, Michigan, where we get to see just kind of the depths of what a Republican-led government, and I use the word led intentionally there, will do to the public. But the problem stretches far beyond Flint. Not to undermine what's happening there at all, but this has kind of opened the door and opened people's eyes to see that all across this country, we're drinking poison.
No doubt about it. And unfortunately, there hasn't been much press about it until Flint. In 2006, Durham and Greenville, North Carolina had problems with lead in their drinking water. In Columbia, South Carolina, they've had problems. We had it in Jackson, Mississippi this year. And of course, Flint is the biggest problem. And what people have to understand is that 30 years ago, there was basically a ban on lead pipes underground that had water in it for our drinking water. And nothing has been done to replace those lead pipes. And the lead that is in our drinking water, plus other contaminants, which we can get into later. But lead is poison. It is something that we have in our drinking water. And drinking water in the world is a very, very important, maybe the most important commodity. And we're destroying the drinking water we have in this country because the Republicans are allowing corporations to basically destroy our drinking water, and they refuse to fund the EPA and refuse to fund replacement of this pipe. And it is embarrassing. It's catastrophic.
Well, it's interesting because the use, or not the use, the implementation of the lead pipes were banned. And a lot of people assume like, okay, well, they've banned it, problem solved. Well, no, those pipes are still in the ground. They're still in use. It's just that we can't lay new lead pipes. But people don't realize the connection there. And when you have a Republican government that absolutely starves the funding for projects like these in order to give tax breaks to the wealthy or to give $4 billion a year to the oil industry, that's money that could have been used to replace the pipes for every city in the country. But no, we've got to give that money to corporations that already make tens of billions of dollars a year in profit. And it really is, I can't stress this enough, that's Republican government. This isn't an accident. This is by design. They use these catastrophes to, show, look how bad the government is. This is why government is useless. And it's useless because you've made it useless. And, that's the piece of the puzzle that people have to start putting together. When Republicans say that the government is useless or bad, it's because they have made it useless and ineffective.
Yeah, the EPA has a standard of 15 parts per billion of lead in drinking water. And the World Health Organization has a similar guideline in which they say that would be safe. And what they're finding is, significantly more than that in our drinking water, and we're doing nothing about it. And what's really scary here is it doesn't take a lot of lead or other chemicals to poison our children. When you think of 15 parts per billion, think of a billion blue dots. And if 15 of those are red dots, then that's at the maximum out of a billion, 1,000 million. And we're doing nothing about it. Look, we spent billions of dollars every day in the Iraq War, but we've done nothing to make sure our drinking water is safe for our families and our children.
Well, I was going to say, there's an article I read a few weeks ago, right after this disaster occurred, and or was exposed, I should say, that says that almost every major United States city west of the Mississippi River has unsafe levels of lead in their drinking water. And, that's something that nobody realizes. In the media, to their credit, in this one instance, they've actually done a decent job of telling the story that this goes far beyond Flint, Michigan, but it's still not enough. People are still not aware of the problem. And so I guess the big question is, how do we continue to raise this awareness, and what do people do?
Well, it's not only here, but in all kinds of infrastructures. There has been some talk about bridges and roads. One of the problems that we have in this country is that, and my grandfather, your grandfather, they paid for those roads. They paid for those bridges. And we've been using them on borrowed time. And the same thing with the pipe, the water system, that we use today. Those were paid for by our grandparents. And we've done nothing to modernize it, nothing to fix them. And why? It's because the Republicans have stopped all attempts to be able to do it. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to get rid of the Republicans. You need to vote them out. You know what? You need to say today, I'm not going to vote for a Republican until they make sure that my children and grandchildren have clean drinking water. And if you can't do that for your own family, and seriously, right? I would hope I wish there were Republicans watching this, because you are the ones who can tell these people to stop it, to make sure. I don't care if you're in Kansas, you're in Iowa, you're in Texas, you're in Mississippi, you're in South Carolina. You're in states where these problems exist. You have to stand up, and because the only thing these politicians want is re-election. They want to be in there so they can get their hands on the money and the power that exists. And the only thing they're going to respond to is you demanding, because this isn't a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is not, but it is in Congress because they're bought and paid for by the giant corporations. But in terms of America, this is for all our children. This is for all our grandchildren, to make sure that for generations to come, we have safe drinking water. To me, we have to stand up and I remember the TV, the movie network. You need to stand up and open the window and just say, we're not going to take it anymore, because this goes right to our future.
Well, it really does. And building on your idea of, Congress is the one that creates this problem, a lot of people may think, oh, this is just Republican bashing. Go back and look through the voting record. Look at which party defunded the EPA that does this testing. Which party continues to block any attempt at an infrastructure bill to fix our roads and bridges and our water pipes. It is all the Republican Party. I mean, this is data that anybody can easily go and look up. It's right there in the voting record. And it's very sad that in this country today, clean water is now a partisan issue. I mean, to me, that's one of the most disgusting things that you could ever imagine. And I'm sure the Republicans who love to invoke the founding fathers, I'm sure those founding fathers would be disgusted to see that we have Republicans saying, I'm sorry, Americans, but we're not going to give you clean water. Good luck.
Yeah, we're going to give money and give money to the oil and gas industry. We're going to, rather than do that, we're going to spend and spend and spend, not for the betterment of America, but to put billions of dollars in corporations, CEOs' pockets. That's the Republican way. And there may be some Republicans who want to stand up and say no, but they're forced by their leaders to go along, or they're going to put a primary fight against them and take them out if they're not going to give corporate giveaways and vote against things like the EPA to make sure that we have clean drinking water.
Absolutely.
It's horrible.
Michael Burg, thank you for talking with us today. This is an infuriating story, and I hope everybody watching this understands that this issue stretches far beyond Flint. What's happening in Flint is terrible, but we need to look in our own backyards as well, because it's happening there too. Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you, Farron. Appreciate it.